When the doubt gets loud, but answer that call. Vision ain't real till you grind at speed, so breathing deep. Then call the damn leads. Call the damn leads.
Hey, welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drewbie Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world. So let's be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. Doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality type. You can create an amazing life and make an abundant impact in the world around you. Today's guest, no stranger to that journey. I'd like to welcome Michael Podolny to the show. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. And how are you, Drewbie?
I am absolutely crushing the day. Thank you for asking. I want to jump right in. I want to hear your craziest sales story.
Well, probably the craziest sales story is is getting sales without trying to sell. So I've been in the professionals role, right? I've done mergers and acquisitions, financial advice, etc. And I work with professionals. And over 20 years, I found that one of the greatest ways to get business was not actually to ask business, but to do something called give to get. And so when you work with people and you're constantly looking to honestly know and understand them, you will get develop real relationships. But this doesn't work in a straight line. It kind of works in this odd, I kind of call it like a Rube Goldberg machine, where you put things in the beginning, on top, right? Which is I'm giving things, I'm making referrals, something, and then you get stuff from the other. So I remember I was working with one guy in particular, trying to tell him about this. And so I introduced him to a couple of my contacts. And then I get home, and I have an email from somebody I haven't talked to in 10 years. All right? It says, "Oh, Michael, I remember you. We have got something here. I want to make a referral to you, etc." And this stuff kind of happens all the time. And it's the nature of this give to get type of philosophy. So you want to talk something that is kind of bizarre and doesn't make a lot of sense logically? That's what I would talk about.
The giver's gain mentality is something that is so incredibly powerful for sales professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, really, anyone on the planet. However, there's a lot of folks who have a hard time flipping that switch because they live in the scarcity of like, hey, if I give to them, then I'm not going to have for me. And so before we go down the giver's gain path, what are some of the things that you know or that worked for you to be able to flip that switch from like, hey, I'm going to hold on to this to I'm just going to give it all away and know that I'm going to be taken care of?
Well, for me, if you looked at my life trajectory, when I was in the merger acquisition business, we used a direct marketing approach. So now this is before, email blast, before everything. I used to have my kids folding envelopes, sending out hundreds of mailers, And so, you would get calls come in and you do your selling, et cetera, from it. When I moved from the East Coast to New Mexico and I started to do more advisory, pre stuff, and I was in an odd community, Albuquerque, where it's really tough to break in. It was by accident. Okay, Drewbie. I tried everything. I tried my direct mail. Not everything was working, but I was coaching soccer and I wasn't trying to do anything, but on my team, there were all kinds of heavy, I'll call them for the town, heavy hitters, and they would come to me after a year and say, "So Michael, you're a pretty good guy. What the hell do you do?" And then, right? And then from that led business. And that's where I said, I wasn't even trying. I wasn't trying to coach soccer so I could get these relationships and doing it. I was just doing this because I loved it and wanted to help the kids. And I ended up getting business. And I said, let's go down this path a little more. And then there was a lot of trial and error, et cetera, doing it. But that was the breakthrough for me.
I really appreciate you sharing that story. It's something that I've talked to a lot of clients about over the years and tried to explain to people. When it comes to lead generation, marketing, brand building, the best thing you can do is go and do the things that you're actually passionate and get excited about. Because whatever the product or service you offer, unless it's something very, very super niche, and even if it is, people are going to ask you at some point, like, what do you do and how do you help people? Because it's just a genuine part of human curiosity. We're always interested in, like, what do other people have going on in their life? And I love the idea and always encourage people, just do the things that you love, because there's other people who love those things that will trust you more simply because you have that shared commonality of interest and be more willing to work with you for the product or service that you offer. And what's cool about this is when you really get a few layers deep, you can literally build a life doing the things that you love doing and get paid for it and be able to support and make a big impact. And from what I've seen of yourself, you have this big project that you're working on because you've leaned so heavily into this giver's gain mentality. So tell us more about that.
Sure. I want to go to one thing just before we do that, because, when we talk about giver gain, the phrase I used was give to get. There was a great little booklet called The Go Giver that I recommend to everybody to look at. But I also tell people, you give and give, but you still have to get, which means all those things you talked about, you do need to have a brand. You need to know who your prime, customer is. You need to explain what your value proposition is. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do your sales basics, right? You got to have both pieces. So just wanted to plug that so it's not like you still got to do the sales basics.
Good. Thank you for the reminder, Michael, because you're absolutely right. Someone would have said, well, Drewbie said if I just do the stuff I love all day, I was going to get rich. And that's not what we're saying.
No.
Not at all. You're going to have to do the work. But yes, please continue.
You're talking about funny, and I'll get to the big project. But when I was coach people on this give to get, and I will tell somebody, like, sometimes I can't get people to ask me what I do. And I will, damn it, at the end, last 10 minutes, I'm going to give them my infomercial. I'm going to make sure I get my information out, what I need, what I'm looking for, whoever, even if I've made the meeting 90% about the other person. Okay. Anyway, thank you for giving me the opportunity. So I'm working on something that's really interesting. When we talk about sales and building branding, this has been probably the biggest challenge of my life. So without getting into a long story, God sort of threw me into Africa, and I ended up working with women who have been trapped in sex work. And it was like, how do you get these people out? And by the way, I knew nothing about this. I mean, I was the poster child of the white person doing everything wrong, going into another country. Like, if you don't believe in God or some higher power, I mean, my story will get you to believe it. And I'm not, born again, whatever. But anywho, so I was sitting there with this challenge in that you can do all the training in the world you want, but if there's not a job, nobody's improving, right? And yet this is what all social impact does. I mean, we've spent trillions of dollars on education, and there's been zero change in jobs and economic development over half a century. So I'm scratching my head, and I'm, naive, and I don't know but I knew all these professionals, right, that I'm doing, and I had done some work with virtual assistants, and I said, all of my professionals who are doing this give to get, we tell them the follow-up, right? You have a meeting with somebody, what's the average memory, of how many is that meeting? A week, 2 weeks, whatever. And if you've got 100 leads, can you meet with everybody personally, right? In a year and add new? No, you've got to have a newsletter. You got to have something. You've got to have some kind of ongoing follow-up. And most professionals would rather do open heart surgery on themselves than do a newsletter. So I said, again, serendipity, had met this young lady, who had a business plan. She was going to do some e-marketing. She was like 24. I had met her through a Rotarian. I was there through through contacts in Rotary, and I found out that she's a sex worker and that she's desperate to get out of the business. And the business plan wasn't going to work. And I said to her, Mary, this ain't going to work. We got to find something that will work like right away. And I said, I think I know what we're going to do. I think if you could, by the way, she was a high school dropout as a freshman. All right, so she's been on the streets, for 8 years, just living by her wits, had written a business plan, put it on Microsoft Office, done a bunch of market research. That's another whole story. I said, you're pretty sharp, young lady, okay? And she said, hey, just because I do what I do doesn't mean I'm dumb, right? And I said, great. I know people who need you because you're going to charge them $8 an hour for something that they would have to pay $45 an hour. All right. And get on MailChimp, get on Canva, produce an email for them, and send it out. So we did a test with her. She passed with flying colors. You talk about, I probably should have put this as my sales trailer. It's me going out to all my friends and contacts and say, sure, we could go to Africa and create a social impact program and take these women off the street and create a successful business of people selling to U.S. business people, right? From women who don't even have high school education, right? Barely speak English, etc., in our way, and do it. And I raised $120,000. So
come on. Well, and here's the thing and again, this is why I love the sales industry, because you can come from literally any background, any situation, and if you get a little creative and you put in a little bit of the hustle muscle, you can carve out a lane for yourself to be successful. And listen, I barely graduated high school. I failed sophomore English 3 times. I was a senior taking sophomore English. I've written 5 books. I have 2 more in the works, multiple bestsellers. Like, none of that matters. If you care and you're passionate, you will develop the skill set necessary in order to provide for yourself, for your clients, and for your community. Because that's the thing, when you start to realize that you have this skill set that you can then share with others, it becomes this greater impact and this fulfillment it's hard to explain, very honestly, Michael, and I'm sure you've had this experience where it's just like, why do you do what you do? It's like, well, there's a lot of reasons. It's very layered. And so, what I'd be curious about as you've started to roll out this project and you're kind of working with these women and some of these folks, where do you take it from here? Like, how many people have you helped? Where are you, what's kind of the big picture vision for you?
Well, everybody talked about their BHAG, and I tend to be, maybe it's because I have a lot of gray hair and I've, been through a lot. It's that, if you don't build a foundation, you can go real fast and furious and just fall flat on your face. And we've been very, very, so where we are right now, we've gone through maybe about a dozen people. We have 5 currently working with us. We deal a lot, and we're still dealing with the fact that the people we get with are damaged. They have a lot of trauma in their life. And as much money as I raised is nowhere near enough as we probably should have gotten, right, to really do what we want to be doing. Right now, one of the things we want to do is get trauma counseling and that kind of stuff. So where we're at is that we have proven that we can get to break even. All right. So the women now pay for their own salaries, their own overhead, everything. All right. Now, you know what break even means. That means you're 1 month away from losing a client and being done. So
we're on the edge, baby.
We're not like rolling in, money, but that's pretty damn good considering that, we started 4 years ago with people who do basically nothing, didn't know anything about U.S. business, etc. So where we're at now is we've gotten a grant from Rotary, from Rotary. We've gotten another donation from another foundation. So we're starting to train people. So the next step is to prove that we can really scale. And so we're really heavy into the business development side, which is what we've got to replicate. So I do a lot of that, and we need to get me out of that. I don't do any day-to-day operation anymore. All of that's done by this young lady, Mary, I told you about, is in fact my head of operations. She's a officer for a Rotary Club to End Human Trafficking. So the big vision is we need to get develop a sales engine, because we know, here's an interesting statistic for you. In the 2020 census, they measured 25 million people who are self-employed. Okay, this is according to SBA records. This is the U.S. Census, Small Business Association. That means people who have a registered business, paying taxes, etc. That was up 5 million from 10 years earlier. That was a growth of 25%. Now, what do you think has happened since COVID? Okay, and especially the last couple of years with government layoffs, corporate layoffs, AI coming in, with corporations telling people, We don't give a damn about work-life balance. I mean, as part of research in my latest, sales campaign, I've got about 5 or 6 articles of corporate people saying, yeah, people should be happy to have a job. They stop bitching about all this stuff. And you just have companies right now who talk about, I'm trying to remember, just in the Wall Street Journal, like within the last day or two, saying like, yeah, we don't think we need any more people to grow. We think we just make people work harder, more effective, etc. So I think the growth of people looking, say like, I got to do my own thing, which means they're going to have to sell. Okay, they're going to have to sell. They're going to have to find their value proposition, etc. And that's where we think we have a huge opportunity, because we can help them with all the back office type of things they need, where they shouldn't be spending their time. They should be spending their time doing high value stuff, getting out there, billing at $100, $150, $200, $300 an hour.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing about the progression in this lifestyle, right? Is you get to a point where, as a sales professional, you do everything and you make a certain amount of money, and then you realize that someone's got to do the paperwork and call and double check and make sure everything got delivered on a fulfillment side. And so you start to realize that if I can automate, delegate, or eliminate certain things from my day-to-day activity, it is the best use of my time. And I love the sales engine side, right? To me, that's where we nerd out as a company. Is like, hey, how do you create a machine that runs for you 24/7, no holidays, no time off, unless it's broken, but that's a different conversation, right? But like, how do you build that? Because a human can only do so much. And AI, as great as it is, will never replace human, genuine, honest conversation and connection. And so I love what you're saying, Michael, about, hey, how can we all work together to create opportunity to support a community that doesn't typically have that level of support? How can we step in and show these women a better path in life that won't put them, in harm's way? And then how can we also help ourselves in the sense of, hey, if we can do more things, then guess what? The greatness that we provide on this earth, right? The blessing that God has given us to share with the world, it gets multiplied. And so I'm sure we could probably sit here and nerd out on this conversation for many, many hours and talk about all sorts of crazy deals and things that you've done. But I want to be respectful of your time. How do we find you, follow you, check out more of the content about this project, learn more? What's the best way to check it all out?
Sure. The best way is our websites. We have 2 websites. Okay, one is for our nonprofit entity. Our nonprofit acts as a business incubator, so to speak. Okay. It gets money, right? And then use that money to use outsourced business then to get disadvantaged populations, into a more, productive basis. It's called theodoraafrica.com. All right. Okay. So, and then our test case is our Ghana-based virtual assistant business that serves predominantly solopreneurs, and it's theodoraghana.com. And my email address is michael.podolny@theodoraghana.com. So those are the best way.
Definitely make sure we put those in the show notes for everybody.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, Michael, this has been a blast, man. I can't thank you enough for your time. I really appreciate you sharing with us today.
It's been enjoyable, Drewbie. Definitely has been.
Love it. Well, listen, if you guys enjoyed the show, if you got some value out of it, you think you learned something, maybe it's something you're passionate about making an impact, go share it on social media. Maybe you know somebody who's overworked, who's stressed out, and they need someone to help them get out from under all that administrative work. Maybe you send them this episode. Tell them, hey, I was thinking about you. I heard this show. This might be something for you to check out. Send it their way. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're here to do. We're here to help each other. And if you know someone that needs help, they could probably enjoy the show as much as you do. Then go subscribe, leave us a review, tell us how much you love the show, or maybe you hated it. Tell us you hate it. I doubt you will. But, we just want your honest opinion. Tell us what you think. And more than that, though, if you have your own sales story, and you probably do because you're here listening to us and you've been in the game, you've probably got some crazy stuff to talk about. I want you to be on the show as a guest. Head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your details. Let's get you scheduled in. Then go grab a hat, a keychain, a wristband, maybe a hoodie. Feel like supporting the movement. Be part of it. Because you know what to do from here. Go pick up the phone. Call the damn leads. We'll see you guys next time.
When the doubt gets loud, but answer that call. Vision ain't real till you grind at speed, so breathing deep. Then call it damn leave. Call it damn leave.